Hi. Um, we're going to cover a lot of ground today, a lot of different topics. I'm going to tie it all up. I'm going to talk about what's on my head. I'm going to talk a little bit about the HPA axis and polyvagal theory and yoga. Yes, I am going to talk about yoga. A little bit about traditional clothing and eating disorders, fasting and eating disorders, faith and meditation and how those can go together. Yeah, so there's a lot today. I hope you'll stick with me. Well, you will if you like it. First, this is my Irish walking cape. I talked about it in the traditional clothing and eating disorders, right? My daughter says that when I have this all on, I look like a Sith Lord. I probably do. Oh, also, I really, really hope you can hear me. Is my sound being weird? I hope you can hear me. I'm using this microphone and I realized that it just got all into the thing. I'll try to do that. I hope this is working. Anyway, so here is the Irish walking cape, and then you can tie it. It's sensational. So I wanted to show you that. I will link the traditional clothing and body piece thing. Okay, so I already showed you, this is the hat that I made. I wrap this around my head. It keeps my ears warm. And it also protects my hair. But I can take that off now. I'm going to take off the Irish walking cape. This is riveting video, I know. But we're going to get there, guys. We're going to get there. Okay. So here's a little more about the Irish. Ooh, it has pockets. Okay. And here's another one of those linen skirts. Yes, I already talked about this. Here is, let me take that off. This is a very sweet little Samoa wool cardigan that I just completely love. Okay, this is the vest that I made. So I'm just going to keep that on. I really, really hope that you're able to hear me in this microphone and that it's not being scritchy and all that. Okay, now we're going to get into it. But I wanted to show you those things because I said that I would in another video. Okay, this. If in my faith tradition, it's Ash Wednesday today. And it's the beginning of the Lenten season. And these are 40 days leading up to the week of Easter. So that's what this is. Now, let's talk a little bit about what comes up around faith and meditation, faith and yoga, and then today is also a fasting day, and then there's just a lot in our culture right now about the benefits of fasting, and there are many. I was talking to my friend yesterday. Apparently there is this particular way to fast that can really help with blood pressure. You can learn more about that on nutritionfacts.org. I bet if you typed in like fasting blood pressure, it would come up. Okay. So, I guess I'll get the fasting eating disorders part out of the way because that's a shorter topic. So yes, Mischief, I have a life experience of living with disordered eating. I've learned that when I try to go too hard on a fast, I've even anyway, I won't get into details, but when I personally lean in too hard on the fast, it kicks off old thoughts of ooh, how long could I go without eating? It's not good. No. And I've worked really hard and learned a ton of stuff to not really have that part of my life anymore. So I'm just going to take a bite of my Irish soda bread. So I have Irish soda bread with some jam because I love jam. I hope my chewing is not too loud. So I will have a meal today. So in our tradition, we have one meal. For people who eat meat, you wouldn't eat any sort of meat. Maybe they eat fish. I don't know. I don't know if people eat fish on Ash Wednesday. I don't eat any animal things, so it makes it really simple for me. What I do on a fasting day is I just have one big meal. But then I've learned for myself in my particular situation that the full-on fasting, even a lot of the intermittent fasting that people talk about, I've seen my clients do very well on different kinds of fasts. In my particular situation, I have my way of doing it, and that works for me. And also just in our tradition, we're taught basically you would have one full meal in the during the day, and then little snacks. So my soda bread, and then this is some sort of a hot beverage. I forget which one. I make a whole bunch of them. It's like I'm running a science experiment in the morning. I got all my different burdock root and dandelion root and ginseng and ginger and nettle and mallow and all the different things. I get them all going. My matcha, my green tea, I get it all lined up and I just drink it. So I'm going to be having this little snack, and I'm eating on camera on purpose because there are reasons from an eating disorders point of view. Okay. So, excuse me. That is the fasting and eating disorders bit. Now, the faith and meditation bit and the faith and yoga bit. I run into this concern a lot coming from both sides. People who are super into yoga. I mean, I don't push my faith on anyone. What I'm encouraging is for you to look at, just like in that talk before, I was saying, look at your own ancestry and see if there's anything from the traditional clothing of your ancestry that you might want to bring into your current life and see how that feels. I do the same thing with faith, whether it's something that maybe you were brought up in or something that you've been curious about. You have your own inner wisdom, you have your own journey that you're on, and this same friend yesterday proclaimed all truth is God's truth, I will say I have looked deeply in detail in the Vedic scriptures, and they call them scriptures, in the Vedic scriptures texts, in the source materials for yoga, and I know my own faith very thoroughly. And to me, it actually, the more I look into it, the more it amazes me how there are all these different touch points, and that sometimes our minds throw up objections to things as a way of maybe not doing the work. And that's just where those people are, and that's fine. But I can tell you, I've looked repeatedly into it. I've studied it extensively. I've written about it a little bit. It's a hard topic to write about. I haven't nailed like how to, the right words. I've spoken with my own spiritual director about this at length. This person has looked into it at length. I've been at this for years. And I just have an amazing appreciation for the wisdom of our ancestors. I mean, they weren't perfect, but I mean, like, the wisdom of our inheritance in terms of philosophy and deep insight into what kind of creatures are we? How are we created? How are we designed? What are the different mechanisms that are going on inside of ourselves? And so that brings me to the HPA axis and the PolyVagal theory, and swinging back around specifically to yoga itself, and also just neuroscience. We are learning a tremendous amount, and we have been for a long time, but learning a tremendous amount about our central nervous system, about how all these things play together within ourselves, and how are we designed to, on the one hand, we're designed for survival, not happiness. That is true. And that explains a lot of like that rumination and the anxiety and all that stuff that can just pummel us. There's a component of survival tactics built into that. Essentially what's happening, so it's not only like worn train tracks, it is that, it's old scripts, it is all of that stuff, and we can work with all of that. And also there's an element of just trying to keep us safe. So our fear centers in our brain are just trying to repeatedly remind us, okay, remember this one, remember this, remember, avoid, remember this happened, be sure you remember this happened. I know you're happy right now, but be sure you remember this happened. Okay, and so once we can really like acknowledge that, and even for me, I even have gratitude for that, that we can start to work on it. We can even meditate in such a way that we can turn down the fear centers in our brain. And thank you to Coach Meg of Well Coaches, who first, like, very specifically taught me that concept, which blew my mind. So I know I'm covering a lot of ground here, but I'm laying a foundation. So yes, on the one hand, we are built for survival, not necessarily happiness. True. Once we understand that a little more, work with that a little more, we can finesse. We can finesse. Part of how we do that too is in our physical practice. We work on feeling safe and feeling connected. Our root chakra, first chakra, and sixth chakra connection. And then also seventh chakra could be that divinity, faith, whatever spiritual tradition speaks to you. So notice, so our first chakra has to do with our legs, the very bottom of our torso has to do with safety. Anytime in yoga that we're standing up, doing strengthening with our legs, standing in those warrior poses, doing tree, all of them, we are establishing our safety, our rootedness. It is our root chakra. Chakra just means like, where do energy points come together? And literally when you look at our nervous system structures, these are nexus, like junction points of where a lot of different nerve centers come together. They correspond. So like literally we can look at how do our nerves actually bundle up. I do have asthma, you guys. I manage it really well, but it's very dry outside. And I was just outside, so it's okay. We'll get through this. I'll try not to cough too much. So our nerve centers really strongly correlate to these chakras. So that's when I'm using that word chakra, that's what I mean. So our root chakra is about safety and rootedness. And so one of the reasons that I emphasize so much, and all of my Soma Yoga colleagues, like we really emphasize, get yourself comfortable. Don't do anything that hurts. Don't do anything that increases sensations of agitation or pain. Part of the one, it just doesn't work. It jacks up our nervous system even more, and but also, at least from my point of view, we are communicating to our physical selves that we are safe, that those parts of us that are trying to keep us safe all the time can relax. We're not going to do anything that's going to hurt us. Sometimes I do my whole practice with a blanket over me. Cool. Do it. Do what you need to do to feel safe, and then connect it. So look at what we're doing here. The bottom part of our body and then the top part of our body. I just love that. I love that symmetry. So yes, in yoga, we're also working on these middle, we have 4 or 5, depending on how you're counting, other chakras that are amazing, and we can get into that. If you're interested in the chakras, let me know. But I love how this can really help us to be so embodied. We are reestablishing our relationship with our bodies. We're establishing body peace. This is body peace yoga that we're exploring and building on. And so by focusing on root chakra, connection chakra, maybe divinity chakra, depending on how things are for you, we create this cohesive and comprehensive whole that is our physical body. Now, so in our yoga practice, we, even if we're not thinking about it, even if we're not aware of it, all of that's okay. We are addressing those things. Now, I'm going to get to you this book, One Simple Thing. I hope it's not backwards for you. I don't know. It's called One Simple Thing, A New Look at the Science of Yoga and How It Can Transform Your Life by Eddie Stern. Amazing book. There's a foreword by Deepak Chopra, so this is no joke. Amazing book. It's part of a course that I took years ago on the HPA axis and polyvagal theory and the role of yoga in helping us to work with all of this. HPA axis, I'm pretty sure stands for, is it hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, I think. It's basically these feedback loops that either jack us up or calm us down. PolyVagal theory has to do with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. And that's why, I do a lot of cross-body movements. I do a lot of like crossing our eyes over the midline, all of that. Now, specifically, why am I even bringing this to you today is because on TikTok, on this past Sunday, I made the commitment that every day during Lent, I'm going to say my intention for that day. What am I going to enjoy that I already have? And then the reason I'm doing that is because for Lent this year, I had the clarity that it will be very interesting for me to let go of online shopping. So for me, it helps when I let go of something to focus on, okay, well, what's the positive? What am I going to do? And so what I'm going to do as I'm letting go of any sort of online shopping, I'm trying to let go of any online shopping, including for my businesses. I'm going to try to do that as much as I can. So enjoy something that I already have. So day one, what I've picked is, because I enjoy this. I really love this stuff. I love it. It's amazing to me. So enjoy something I already have. Well, I already have this book and I already have that course. I'm going to go back into the course. And it has a practical need because I'm preparing a pathology report for my yoga therapy work. And my pathology report is about HPA axis, stress response polyvagal theory. So it does have a practical application, but also I just really enjoy it. And I'm just going to read to you a little bit from this book. And this all ties back to how we're created, because it's amazing. Yes, we're wired for safety, not necessarily happiness. Also, we are designed, it's amazing how we're designed. And like we can tap into different parts and learn how to work with our design so that we can experience peace. So this is the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic, vagus nerve. While the functions of the central nervous system oversee both higher order brain functions and brain stem functions, the properties of the autonomic nervous system are largely survival functions and have been evolving within us for 320 million years. Our brain stem, where our survival functions are housed, literally links us to millions of years of survival-based evolution. And the remnants of those survival traits are still very much within us. While the impulse to survive shows itself through our heartbeat, our digestion of food, our sexual reproduction, and our ability to sense and respond to danger, the higher order functions reflect the impulse we have to socialize, this connection, to love, listen, to be heard, plan, dream, imagine, and create. The autonomic nervous system regulates our survival functions. These happen within us automatically. And then Eddie goes on. By the way, he has a very cool app. I think it's just called Breathing app. It's free. And he goes through resonance breathing with you, and you can set the time for how long you want to do the resonance breathing. And the tones in the resonance breathing are by Mobi. Do you know that musician Mobi? Mobi created the tones for Eddie Stern. I don't know, are they friends? Is he friends with Deepak Chopra? Who is this guy? Okay. Then he talks about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is indeed one of the most fascinating and complex nerves of our nervous system. It oversees and connects to almost all of our internal organs, and thus it affects our heart rate and our ability to express emotion through speech and facial expression. It is very likely the most comprehensive communication system we have outside of our brain, and this is just a small fraction of what it does. The vagus and the word vagabond that we have, someone who travels, wanders, is related to the word Vegas. And it's not Vegas like the place, it's Vegas, V-A-G-U-S. It's the wandering nerve, and it's a collection of nerves. It's a nerve system. It's a large bundle. Most cranial nerves are directed toward one particular function, such as the olfactory, smell, which goes to the nose, or the optic nerve, eye, which goes to the eyes. The vagus nerve, however, travels in what could be called a very comprehensive manner to almost all of our internal organs above and below our diaphragm, which is right here. This is our, first, second, third chakra, our power seat, and it's also our breathing muscle, primary breathing muscle. Low vagal tone is associated with inflammation in the body, high blood pressure, diabetes, digestive problems, epilepsy, anxiety, depression, and cardiovascular disease. That's a heavy-duty list. One of the compensatory responses of our body is to release inflammatory mediators, such as in times of stress, even when they are not needed. This buildup of the inflammatory response can target different organs to cause the problems listed above. When our communication networks are strong, our internal signaling is clear and direct. The internal organs stay in balance, performing their respective jobs. And then he quotes a neuroscientist, all this stuff. I won't get into all of that. Dr. Stephen Porges is the one who really kind of established PolyVagal theory, founding director of the Traumatic Stress Research Consortium, who has published over 300 peer-reviewed papers in addition to many other achievements, has a theory that through the hierarchical operations of the vagus nerve, the autonomic nervous system responds to real-world challenges, whether a response to danger or to love, in a predictable way, and goes on. That's really technical. I won't say too much. This one was so interesting to me when I first learned it. Immobilization or freeze. So very often we talk about fight or flight, but I have had the lived experience of freeze. And it's difficult to explain. Maybe you've had it. Immobilization or freezing is one of our species' most ancient mechanisms of defense. Inhibiting movement slows our metabolism, reducing our need for food, and raises our pain threshold. Helpful, but also often that means we allow more pain before, the frog in the boiling water. But in addition to freezing defensively, mammals immobilize themselves for essential prosocial activities, including conception, childbirth, nursing, and the establishment of social bonds. So there's an amazing example right there where, yes, these mechanisms can be associated with moments of incredible pain, like trauma that we don't even have words for, maybe don't even remember cognitively because it was so bad. And also, some of the same mechanisms basically give us the antidote. It's incredible. There's so much good stuff in here. I'll just read one more little excerpt here. The way the body monitors its internal condition is called interoception. That's another thing we're really working on with yoga. The process of engaging with the outer world rather than the inner is called exteroception and is the function of our sense organs and our neuroception. So our neuroception is like our ability constantly, like there's a part of us that is constantly on the lookout for any danger at all. Can be helpful, can also be exhausting. We can work with it. Much of the pleasure and effectiveness of yoga asanas, so the asanas are the poses, derives, I'm going to start that again. Much of the pleasure and effectiveness of yoga asanas derives from the interoceptive communication about internal states. So when we twist, bend forward and back, and massage all of the internal organs, we send messages from our internal organs back to our brain, telling our brain things like, I am being stretched. I am being strengthened. I am receiving increased blood flow, oxygen, and nutrients. I am happy. Practicing asanas combines both exteroceptive and interoceptive benefits. The ability to increase our conscious ability to sense how we are feeling. It's another thing we're really working on, is tying our awareness to our will. Basically, it's a practice. We grow it over time. What I mean by that is I now, at this stage in my life, am pretty good at willing my awareness, my conscious awareness, more or less to go where I want it to go. I'm not perfect at it, but I've gotten pretty darn good at it. Example would be, well, that coughing. I was able to will myself to breathe in a certain way, and also I was having the coughing reflex, and I willed my attention to not basically be on the coughing reflex. And I gotta say, because this has been a part of my life forever, like when I was 6 weeks old, I almost died of pneumonia. I have a really high ACEs score. ACEs means adverse childhood experiences. I have a lot of those. Very high ACEs score, which contributes to a lot of the things that I deal with physically. But having this as like part of my life from the beginning means I've had a lot of time to practice. Okay, so practicing asanas combines both exteroceptive and interoceptive benefits. The ability to increase our conscious ability to sense how we are feeling physically, emotionally, and spiritually is one of the marks of a contemplative practice. Interoception is a way of being aware of what is happening inside of us. And he just goes on and on and on. Different types of breathing, different ways of practicing yoga. Oops, I accidentally took off one of my blue little markers. I need that for my report. I'll figure out where it was. Okay, so a little wrap up here. We've gone on for a bit. If you're still with me, we covered, what is this? It's for Ash Wednesday. Okay, so wait, you do yoga? Huh? It's a faith thing. I've looked extensively into how different faith traditions and spiritual traditions fit in with yoga and meditation. I have spoken with the elders in my traditions on both sides, the yoga side and the faith side. I have utter confidence, and I've looked at the source texts and the scriptures and the teachings extensively. I have basically at this point a lifetime. My mom taught me yoga when I was 7. She knew she was dying. She wanted to give me something that would help me. I didn't know she was dying, but she did. And it has helped me immensely, clearly. Thank you, Mother. I love you. Although I called her Mommy. So I'll say, thank you, Mommy. I love you. So, decades of experience at this point, decades of studying and learning. I can very confidently say I have not found a conflict between the two. And the times that some people will say, well, I can't do yoga because I'm blah, blah, blah. And then people in yoga will say, well, I can't have that because of la, la, la. It's like, okay, that might just be a wall that you're putting up, and that's okay. That's where you are. So there's that. So I would say, don't worry. Like if you're interested in meditation or you're interested in prayer, what do they have in common? So we also covered a little bit about eating disorders and fasting, and I realized like when I get to talking, I don't finish my food. But here's my Irish soda bread and my warm beverage, and I'm going to eat that after we're done here, which is in about a minute. Okay, so we covered that. I showed you my Irish, there's an eagle flying outside. Wow. I showed you my Irish walking cape, my vest. I hope you've been able to hear me this whole time. I'm enjoying what I have, which includes this microphone. And I'm also enjoying this learning that I have, this book. I talked to you a little bit. That was mostly about PolyVagal. I thought it was going to be more HPA axis, but I think that might be more in the course itself. If something really interesting comes up, I will share it. Yeah. And then we talked just more about how we are created, how we are designed, some of where our old scripts might be coming from, and then some of the things that we can do to work with that. Okay. Thank you for being here with me. I know the beginning was a tiny bit chaotic. I still don't really know how to edit things. I'm learning, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm building this with you. Okay. Bye. I will see you soon. Bye.